Hey guys, welcome to Evolve. This is our landmark event, and I'm so pleased to see so many of you here. This is kind of an unexpected treat for me. I get to follow Greg McEwen on stage, and what kind of professional engineer doesn't want to follow a professional speaker after a speech like that? Part of the reason that it's so thrilling for me to be able to follow Greg, in all seriousness, is that I was given a copy of Essentialism probably 18 months or so ago when I moved into this role. And I had a lot of ideas about what we needed engineering to be. I had a lot of ideas about where I wanted to take it and what we were capable of doing. But there was a lot of things we had to get through first. So being given a book that really helped me clarify and cut through to the essential was just awesome. However, as the quintessential non-essentialist, it just sat on my desk for 6 months under a big pile of nothing waiting for me to find it. So when I did get it, when I finally got around to reading it, it really crystallized a lot of my thoughts, and it really helped me focus in. So when putting together my talk for today, I really wanted to make sure that I remained true to one theme and came out here and was very clear about the value prop of Trace3 and what we can bring to you guys. So the title for this is Close the Gap. And where that phrase comes from, as Tyler mentioned, we do these client advisory boards several times a year where we bring some of you together and kind of like an unofficial board, we say, hey, this is where we are, this is where we're going, what do you like, what we should do more of, what should we do less of? So in the client advisory board that we had in September last year in Deer Valley, one of our clients said to us, close the gap. When we said, hey, what does that actually mean, close the gap? The feedback we got was, when we talk to some people from Trace3, it sounds like you're subject matter experts, data center technology brokers. And yet when we talk to other people at Trace3, it sounds like you're thought leaders, consultants, and innovation experts. So we were challenged at that time with how we can close that gap and ensure that we are the partner to you guys that we think we are and we think you need. So foundational success. Anyone that's been here before to these events may have heard this phrase. This is something that Hayes, our founder and owner, coined, I think, 8 or 9 years ago, and he even wrote a playbook about it. So essentially what he said was, in the business we're in the chains we run through, there are always 3 entities in that chain. So there are our clients, there are our partners, and there are Trace3. And the way that Hayes stated it, the playbook that he wrote for us, he said that we'd never really have true success if we weren't making sure that all 3 entities in this chain were successful. And it's part of the reason that I love Evolve. If you look around this room, there are only really 3 types of people in this room. There's Trace3, there are our clients, and there are our partners. So in many ways, this is the distillation of foundational success. And if we can continue to make everyone in this room successful, we continue to stay in business and become more successful ourselves. So I stole this quote from a stand-up comedian. Surfing is like jumping off a first-story building and then having the building chase you. I think this is true for a lot of things in life, but I think this is particularly true for IT. So anyone that was here last year would have heard Neil Nicolaisen, who's doing a breakout session tomorrow. If you heard his talk, one of the things I came away from that with was, this is either the best time to be a CIO or it's the worst time to be a CIO. I think that's absolutely true. And whether you're a CIO or you're part of the engineering organization working for your company, I think that holds true. Now, I think that same thing was true 2 years ago. I think that same thing will be true in 3 or 4 years' time. It's my belief. I've been in IT, I've been in engineering for 21, 22 years now. I've seen a lot of change coming. I've seen a lot of these waves of change come over the last 10, 15, 20 years. I've seen established ways of doing business really change, and established technologies just diminish and go to the wayside, as I'm sure all of you in here have seen. So as we're thinking about this, as we're thinking about the challenges that you guys have in front of you, we believe that you need to figure out the right time to surf this wave. If you go too early, you're going to get soaking wet and that building is going to come crashing down on top of you. If you wait too long, what happens? Gravitational push, right? Technology changes, the business changes. Someone may make that decision for you. Tyler brought up act or be acted upon during his speech. I think for the people in this room, that should be one of the core mantras of our being, of what we do. It's act or be acted upon. And again, we can act on behalf of our business, and if we're not there right on time, we can be acted upon. So we believe, as as our clients, as our partners, as you're addressing these changes, as you're seeing these waves come, these waves of change, we want to be sure to be the right partner for you guys. We want to enable you to figure out, hey, when are you going to get on that board and get on the wave? What do you have to do to get through safely? And if you're like this Lego guy, how do you get right through the middle and look really cool? We believe we're that partner that can help you with this. So, like a lot of technologists, if it can't be broken down into a four-grid quadrant, it's probably not worth talking about, right? So I put this up. This is, and I'm willing to argue this with anybody. If anyone wants to take this up over hors d'oeuvres later, I'd love to have this discussion. But this is how I see technology has really changed over the last 20, maybe 25 years. So pretty simple axis: mature, innovative, strategic, and tactical. So if we think back 25, maybe 30 years, if you think back to when e-commerce was just starting to become an idea, what were probably the two first things that we needed? It was communication and a way to store the data that we were trying to communicate, right? So from my perspective, I think communication, I think networks, I think storage were two of the foundations by which we've built this industry that we all work in. But if you look at this today, where would you put network and storage? I would argue they're somewhere down here. I would argue they're pretty mature. I would argue they're pretty tactical. And let me be very clear. If it's up on this quadrant, it's because you guys need it. In no way am I being disparaging. But I think it's fair to say businesses are not necessarily making decisions around network and storage these days. I think they're making decisions and then figuring out how the technology can help them. So just by way of comparison, and again, I'd be willing to argue all of this, when I think about managed services, to me, and again, we could argue this, but I think that in many ways it straddles these lines. Managed services, you need it to be innovative, but you need it to be mature. It can't be too risky for the business. The next two things we've talked a lot about in the last 2 years, cloud and big data. We think these are huge. We still think these are huge. We think that we haven't even scratched the surface of what these are going to be. And I firmly believe they're up and to the right. But quick question for you. 15, 16 years ago, I was deploying voice over IP for Cisco. And we really believed it was here. We really believed that it was up and to the right. We believed it was groundbreaking. We could change the way companies worked, save on bills. It was just fantastic. I'd be curious, does anyone still think voice is here by show of hands? Does anyone disagree that the voice has become very mature and somewhat tactical? So the next question becomes, what about things like software-defined networks or software-defined worlds? Sure, today it's up and to the right. But fast forward 3 to 5 years, where do we think that's going to be? I'm not entirely sure at this point, but I think this chart bears thinking about as we look at these technologies. And then, Internet of Things. This is coming. Hands, again, by show of hands, who has a plan for the Internet of Things? Who thinks they understand what it's going to be and how it's going to impact their business and they're prepared to take it on today? I thought I saw a hand go up there, but I think someone was just face palming. So again, you guys have choices. As you're navigating this landscape, as you're trying to understand and figure out what does your enterprise need, what is it that you're going to be doing from them, how are you really going to be providing value? As you navigate this, it's very common for our clients to pick up partners, people like ourselves, people that can help you navigate this change. So for sure, excuse me, going backwards there, for sure, we have a lot of competition down here. In this space, traditional data center, there are a lot of players. In Orange County, I'm pretty sure if I threw a stone, I could hit 4 or 5 Cisco resellers from my office window. So we have a lot of good competition down here. And I won't say it happens every day, but occasionally we find people trying to eat our lunch in this quadrant. And it makes total sense. Again, we have very strong competition. What we've also started to see over the last year, maybe 18 months, we're starting to see smaller boutique-type firms, consultancies that are springing up to help our clients with this. People that don't necessarily have the focus on the traditional data center, but do have a focus on innovation and forward-thinking architectures. If you're lucky, you might find a partner that can help you with that, and if you're really lucky, maybe it's the same partner that's going to help you with IoT. One of the things that we think we've done at Trace3, one of the things we're proud of, we believe we've closed this gap. We believe that through the building, the foundations we put in place 12, 13 years ago, and the evolutions that we've gone through over the last decade, we believe we are that partner that can help you no matter what the technical spectrum is, no matter what the business problem that you're chasing. So how do we do this, or how have we done this? Someone mentioned earlier, I think this is the 8th of these events that's been client-facing. So if you go back to 2007, 2009, our conversations were kind of like you'd expect them to be. They were about storage, they were network, it was data, it was virtualization. It was what was really relevant to our clients back then. But if you fast forward from that a year or so, we started having very, very different conversations. We realized that growing out of the vast space, our engineering talent was very strong, but our clients needed more of it. So just sending an engineer on site to deploy a piece of hardware, that wasn't what our clients needed. So we built out services. We added, I jokingly call some of this stuff layer 8 because it's kind of about politics and people, but we built education. We partnered with the Table Group to bring organized health, or organizational health rather. We built managed services. We really formalized our innovation wing. If you then rewind back for the last 2 years, what have we been talking about? We've been talking about the value of our research team. We've been talking about the pathway to the future that we can bring, this vision of the future by our partnerships with venture capital firms. We've been talking a lot about cloud and big data. So what's next? Because the future's kind of broad, right? There's a lot of things coming and there's a lot of changes. So these are some of the things that we plan on doing over the next year. We've started a lot of these already, but these are the things we plan on doing over the next 12 to 18 months, formalizing these offerings. AWS is an example. We realized probably 2 years ago, probably 18 months, 2 years ago, we knew how important this was going to be to our partners and to our clients. So we started investing in it. We built out the back ends. We figured out how to do the billing. We had all the contracts, all that stuff that we needed to do. And then towards the end of last year, as we started to get traction and started to get engaged with our clients, we recognized that we needed to be able to have true full spectrum conversations. So we looked at how we could add to the workforce. We said to ourselves, how do we make our guys, how do we get guys that are qualified? How do we get guys that can help you make these decisions that you need to make? And we looked at some outside hires, which always makes sense, right? Find the guy with the right talent and bring him in. But one of the things that we were concerned about is if we hired people from the outside, how would they understand our client environments? And how quickly would they be able to integrate? So instead of just hiring from the outside, a bunch of our engineers went through an almost Herculean effort. And they got, I think, 37 technical certifications at the end of last year, which makes Trace3 the most technically certified organization anywhere outside of AWS. So think about that. There's AWS, and then there's us. And then there's the next couple of partners down the line. Consulting is something else that we've been, this kind of grew out of the cloud and the big data team. When we started having conversations with our clients about big data and around cloud, it's a very different conversation. You can't just go in and say, hey, do you want to buy some cloud? I've got some widgets. What do you want? It just doesn't work like that. And what we recognized was going in and talking to our clients didn't have as much impact as going in and listening to what they needed. So the cloud and the big data teams created and formalized what we call the envisioning workshop, where they go into our client sites and they try and, not exactly divorce from technology, but they try and understand the business problems that our clients are facing and how we can help with that. One thing we've heard a lot of over the last year is, hey, we love what you guys are doing in the consulting space. How do we get more? So we're formalizing the consulting group. Something else that in some ways, it's kind of odd that we don't already have a security practice. But the reality is security is something that we've been doing for a long time. We just do it as a part of other things. So if we're doing a data center redesign or a data center migration or deployments, whatever it is, you have to consider the security implications. When we've been doing cloud, either the envisioning workshops or then moving into deployment and engagements, we really, a lot of focus had to go on security to make sure we were doing the right thing by the clients. However, what we've realized is that we're at the point where security is becoming so prevalent in the environment that it's really not something that we can just build on as an add-on. So we are going to formalize our security practice this year, which will be kind of a big step for us. And then these last two, these are the things that are still coming. So DevOps. This is not a conversation that companies like Trace3 traditionally get involved in, right? There isn't a huge product sell that's going to go with DevOps. However, what we've realized is that our clients are doing this, and we need to be engaged in order to make sure that we're helping our clients in the way they need and that they're making the right decisions. So over the last 4 or 5 months, we've hired some very, very talented DevOps architects, and they're helping us formalize the offerings so we can bring more consultative goodness out to our clients that are moving into this space. And then lastly, I mentioned this on one of the other slides, but Internet of Things. Again, this is going to be a really big deal, and this is going to come in real time, and it's going to be something we will really need to focus on. So we've already started putting our minds to this, and what is this really going to mean for the people in this room, both clients and partners, and how can we address it? So when I say all of this, it must sound like we have an army of engineers, right? We do all these great things, and we're capable of all this stuff. We do consulting, we do services, we do product delivery. It sounds like we have an army, and the reason for that is that we really kind of do. So from the 345 Trace3 people, 210 of them are engineers. 209 if you take me out of the equation. So we have a very, very strong engineering presence. I put this slide up just so you can kind of get a sense of where our engineers reside. And like I said, we have a select elite consulting group. And then the next group, the architecture group, these are the subject matter experts. These are the guys that can help you understand technology, the changes in technology, how it fits with your environment. Probably unsurprisingly, we have an extremely large delivery team. To do the work that we're doing, we need to make sure we have dedicated resources with the right skill sets. So this is somewhere we've really invested heavily in over the last 12 to 18 months. The fourth column is the one that I'm really interested in for the people in this room. So on top of all those other engineers we've got, the delivery guys, the architects, the consultants, 52 of our engineers, almost exactly 25% of our engineering talent, are dedicated to the people in this room. So we have engineers whose whole job is to understand your environments. Sure, we have engineers that need to understand consulting aspect, technology aspect, delivery aspect, but we think we're missing the trick if we're not understanding your business and trying to understand what you're doing and how we can help with that. So these 52 engineers that are scattered around the offices, around the different regions, these should all be focused on our clients. So I'd like to, last three columns on this, we have roughly 8 to 10% of engineering that is focused on nothing more than forward thinking. So we have a product development group, we have an innovation architecture team, we have a research and innovation team. We have 17 engineers at this point who are forward-facing to make sure that the problems that you guys are going to be seeing in a year to 2 years to 3 years, we understand it and have a handle on it. This is pretty much how we stood up the big data and the cloud teams 18 months ago, 2 years ago, by forward thinking and trying to understand what it meant to you guys before you came to us and said, hey, what is this and how can you help? So the total ratio we have at the moment, again, excluding myself, we have 209 engineers and we have 31 account managers. That gives us a ratio, quite obviously, of 7 to 1 engineers to salespeople. I would ask you, who else brings that amount of technical expertise to bear? I told this story to someone this morning, but probably about 18 months ago, actually not long after I moved into this role, I had a conversation with someone from IBM. And I said, hey, I'm kind of proud of this. We have 5 engineers to every salesperson, and we want to grow that number. And he kind of snorted, and he was a little bit derisive. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, we got 20 engineers to, wow, really? 20 engineers to every salesperson. Are they all available to go on site to the clients this afternoon? I don't know, 16 of them are in India. Okay. So from the other 4, are they available to go and meet with your clients and take them to play golf and work with them? And he said, well, 2 of them are on a global account team. They're not in state. So we pretty much narrowed down. So he actually had 1 engineer that he could take on a sales call for him. And sure, he had a bunch of other guys that he could bring in if he needed, but most of them were in a different time zone, weren't even on the same continent. When we say we have 7 to 1 engineers to sales ratio, and let me be clear, when we say engineer, it's our consulting group, it's our pre-sales architecture group, it's our delivery group, it's project management, it's essentially anyone that's in the service of our clients as we deliver excellence to you. Where else can you see this? Where else has this kind of army that we can apply to this talent? So, with this growth and with this change, our focus is needed to change. We recognize that the VAR lifestyle was pretty good, and not having to worry about methodologies and how things really were supposed to work for our clients. That was a pretty good life as well. So we could just turn up with equipment, and as long as we made sure it worked, hey, hi-ho silver, and we're off into the sunset, and it was a good day. But we recognized as we grew, as we started adding engineers, as we started to add more and more departments to our groups, or to our team, we recognized that we really needed to grow up a little bit. And the focus that we had to apply shouldn't be towards how quickly we could get a deal done, but to how well we could complete something for our clients. So this kind of necessitated a change in mindset, and we came up with our own methodology. So we understood that our partners have certain needs, right? Our partners have certain expectations of us. our clients have a different set of needs that we're trying to fulfill. So it leaves us in this interesting position, and again, very similar to the foundational success I spoke about earlier. It left us in a position of, hey, how do we approach this as an entire life cycle? How do we look at this soup to nuts and make sure that we're doing everything right? So envision, engage, evolve is our internal methodology, and this is how we're building out services, and this is how we approach the larger projects that we take on. So not to bore you, and I'm not going to go through every box on here, but essentially we've broken down into 3 phases. Envision is exactly like it says. It's helping you envision what the future is going to look like. When we're doing a lot of these engagements, there's actually not a deal on the table. Our clients are engaging us because they want us to help them figure out where you guys are going and what we can do for you. So the envisioning phase is really about trying to understand, trying to make sure that we get where you're going and we understand the complexity of it. When we move into the engage phase, this is what you'd expect from a large VAR or systems integrator. This is where you start to see more and more of our people with different subject matter expertise or domain expertise. So you'll see different people coming in and out. Excuse me, but the idea is that we really want to understand, and also we want to show you the strength of our engineering talent. So sure, as an engineer, I can go in and I can probably talk about storage, and I can talk about network, and I can talk about security, but arguably for the client, we're shortchanging you. If one guy is telling you all of that stuff, if you really got subject matter expertise. So moving into the evolve phase, this is really the long-term phase for us. So it's not enough for us to stand up a piece of equipment and give it an IP address and hope it communicates with the outside world. We want to make sure as we move from the envisioning through to the engage and then to the evolve phase, that we understand everything that's happening in the life cycle and are prepared to help with that. So this refers to our delivery team, but it also refers to our account teams. It refers to the 50 engineers that I spoke about that are dedicated to you guys. So our hope is, as we, I don't want to say get stricter with this model because it's not the right way of putting it, but as we adhere closer to the tenets of this model, we believe we're going to be providing better service to our clients and a larger range of services. Technologist lifecycle. I suspect many of you have seen this before. Whether or not you agree with this, whether or not you agree that this is true and holds true to technology lifecycle or the adoption lifecycle, when I looked at this, the first time I really saw this, it kind of struck me how I've seen a lot of engineers over the years. I've seen engineers that are extremely enthusiastic and filled with energy and talent and ability early on in their career, and then they reach some kind of peak or some kind of zenith, and it just seems to be downhill from there onwards. So this might be true for technology, and I think it's also true for certain engineers. But what we found at Trace3 is, sure, there's a technology adoption lifecycle, but we also think there's kind of a technologist lifecycle. So, and this is proportionally correct, and you'll understand what I mean as I go through this. But what I've seen, and this came out of a conversation with our director of research, so if Mark's in the room, yes, I plagiarized this from you. But what we've seen with engineers is people will often hire them because of their potential. You'll look, it doesn't have to be an engineer, you'll look at someone, you'll think, hey, that person has potential. If I hire that person can do good things for my organization. The evolution from that is into skills. Someone gives you an opportunity and then you have to prove you can do what you can do. So we, as engineers, we come in and we learn new technologies, we learn new ways of doing things, and we show our skills. Over time, this translates into expertise. Really understanding not just the technology, not just the commands, not just the way it connects to each other, but really understanding what our clients are trying to achieve and how technology impacts them. And then, the last one, which takes the longest amount of time to get to, is opinion. So again, this axis on the right is really length of time to get there. But I also think this is proportionally correct for the amount of influence it can have for our clients. When you're trying to make decisions about your business and where your business is going, are you looking for people with skills? Are you looking for people with expertise? Or are you looking for a trusted opinion? I would argue you need all three of those things to make the right choices. So as we look at our engineers, and there's probably a bunch of engineers in this room that will grab me on the way out and say, you put us in the wrong bucket. But as we look at our engineers, I think at a broad stroke, it's fair to say, our delivery teams are exceptional, and they're exceptional because they bring massive amount of skills to bear, but they're very knowledgeable and they have a great amount of expertise. I would argue with our architecture group, sure, we can get these guys on a keyboard, but many of them have spent 10 years or so not moving away from a keyboard, but developing their expertise. So our architecture group is really here to make sure that you understand what we can offer and understand what you're getting into. And then the final stage on this is our consulting group. And again, to my very simplistic definition, consulting is an opinion. It's when I consult with someone, I want to know what they think. And I'll often go to them inside work, outside of work, whatever, but I'll go to them and I will look for their opinion. I might not always agree with it, I might not always act on it, but I always seek out other opinions. So we believe that this life cycle, we believe this holds true within Trace3, and we believe that this is the kind of talent that we think you guys need us to bring to bear on your problems in your environments. So this is my last slide. Always listening, always delivering. So where's Todd Galena? Todd, can put your hand up. There he is. So Todd is our VP of marketing, and this was one of the first slogans or one of the first marketing phrases that he came up with when he worked here. I was in the architecture group at the time. I was a pre-sales engineer, and I really loved this. This really spoke to me. And before I came to Trace3, actually, I was a client of Trace3. So this summed up to me what Trace3 did for my organization. They listened and they delivered. And to me, it's kind of simplistic, but it really summarizes who we are. So when I moved into this role about 18 months ago, one of the first things I did was change my signature. And it wasn't to put a cool new title in there, it was to put this phrase in here. And it was almost like a message from the past to my future self, that hey, this is in your signature, and if you adhere to this, things are gonna go well. If I listen to the organization internally, and can work with them and deliver what they need, they're better able to deliver to all the people in the room. So, it has to be incumbent on a company like ours to listen. While I was thinking about this, while I was putting this together, I wanted to put a list up of all the clients that we've listened to and delivered for, and I started putting together one of those really horrible slides where there were just so many logos on it, and it was one of those, aren't you cool, aren't we cool, aren't they? I mean, it was just this horrible, horrible slide. And then I realized that arguably the best testimony we can get are the people in this room. There are a bunch of people that I've seen here that is now their third Evolve, and there's probably some people that are here for their fourth Evolve. We have clients speaking for us today. We had clients speaking for us last year. You guys come and meet with us when we ask you to give us feedback on what we're doing. So I could have put a slide up with all the different logos, but again, my feeling is our success is based on the people in this room and the fact that you give us an opportunity to work repeatedly with you. So my feeling is, and sorry this sounds kind of cheesy, but my feeling is that a company like ours always has to listen and we always have to deliver. Otherwise, we're not going to close that gap on the extremities of being a technology broker and being that consultative partner that you need. By always listening, always delivering, we really do think we're going to do our part in ensuring the foundational success of everybody in this room. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the next couple of days.